As always, sisters and brothers, sons and daughters of the sun, and of direct historical and spiritual aboriginal, Archebalan, African ancestry, the original mothers and fathers of humanity and of human civilization and culture. Once again, I'm Brother Mwanga Sadaka Muntu Nimsayu, and I'm excited and delighted to greet each and all of you in the audience of Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind. Ma'at Hotep, Harambe, Shalom, Namaste, Namaskar, Assalamu Alaikum, and simply Amani Na Upendo, which simply means peace and love. Asante Sana, that's thank you very much for interconnecting and ingathering to participate and bear witness to another awesome and amazing, mind-quaking, soul-shaking, spirit-stirring, eye-opening, jaw-dropping, and edge-of-your-seat episode of Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind. Coming to you from the backwoods, the muddy waters, the sugar ditches, the mosquito swamps, the dirt roads, rattlesnake plantations, railroad tracks, pardon me, mockingbirds, cotton fields, and the magnolia trees of Greenville and Delta, Mississippi. For those of you who may not know, the primary purpose of this educational program is not only to purge, purify, and renew minds, but to enlighten minds, empower people, enrich, enhance, and elevate, and transform as many lives as possible for the better. With all the above being said, our subject for today, believe it or not, is what is love? What is love? That's a great topic. It's a broad topic. I mean, it's a life subject and a life topic. I have always said that if this was today was my last day to live in my holy body temple, and if I were called on to deliver a speech or a sermon, my subject would be, what is love? My subject would be, what is love? And many of you may ask, why would I say that? And I would say, turn to the first epistle of John that's in your Bible. Get your Bible, because I know everybody and everyone has one. And turn to the 4th chapter, the 4th verse. And this is not a biblical program. This is not a program or a sermon that you may hear in your local church and so forth and so on. This educational program is not promoting any form of Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism or Taoism or any kind of ism. But the 4th chapter of the first epistle of John says, greater, I'm making a quote, greater is he. That's the divine spirit, force and power and intelligence that we're talking about. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. The world of materiality, the world of matter, the world of physicality. The 7th verse, I hope you got your Bible, and I know you do, says, beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. The 8th verse says, he that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. Follow along with me and stay with me and bear witness and be patient. And finally, the 16 and 18 verses says, God is love, and he that dwells in love dwells in God, and God in him or her. There's no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear has torment. He or she that fears is not made perfect in love. End of quote. The main highlight of these verses is that God is love. That force and power in the universe and within ourselves and throughout nature is love. God dwells in us, and perfect love casts out fear. So we want to entertain those three verses there, or concentrate on those topics or those ideas that force and power and intelligence that we call God dwells inside of us. Not only is it this force and power and intelligence is represented throughout the universe and throughout nature, but it is inside of us. Another verse, the idea of that verse, God dwells in us, and perfect love casts out fear. And I'm emphasizing perfect love casts out fear because, we living in a time, when the fear of the pandemic, the fear of this, that, and the other, the fear of the loss of life, the fear of losing one's necessities and resources of life, losing one's job, business, loved ones, and even what we call the life of our individual selves. There's a great fear there to one degree or another. And so the idea of the verse, this particular verse, perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. God is love. That force, once again, I'm reiterating, that force and power, that divine force and power and intelligence in the universe that we call God dwells in us. Moving right along. If we read the statement God is love as a mathematical equation, it would read God equals love. Because the word is between God and love, that's like an equal sign in mathematics. So what's on one side of the equal sign is the same that's on the opposite side. So that verse, God is love, or God equals love, is making God and love synonymous. Matter of fact, it's making those God and love one and the same. So the more that we can expand our knowledge and understanding of what love is, then surely we should increase our knowledge and understanding of what God is. The force and power and intelligence in the universe throughout nature and within ourselves. So the more we come to understand what love is, the more we will know and understand God. So this is what we want to entertain today. This is what we want to talk about. This is what we're going to talk about. And maybe this episode in and of itself may be part one. Because untold books can be written on this subject. As a matter of fact, just remember the subject of what is love, and matter of fact, thousands of books, maybe millions, have been written with the intent of answering the question, what is love? Many authors have written books going hundreds of years ago, many years ago, even up to today, trying to answer this question, what is love? What is love? The $64,000 question. It used to be an old TV program called the $64,000 question. So the $64,000 question in this instance is, what is love? Hundreds and many, maybe thousands of songs have been sung about what is love. What is love? Trying to answer that question, what is love? Some of you are younger than I am. Some of you are around my age, and some of you are much older. But you probably can recall many songs. That's in your subconscious mind that you probably could sing a tune or hit a note just like that about love and who the singer was, who sung the song. trying to answer or giving a representation of what he or she thought love was and what love is. I mean, poets have written eloquent poems seeking to answer what is love. What is this thing, this so-called thing that we call love? And in the highways and byways of life, we hear and we have heard love is many splendid things. You know, love is sex. The OJs had a song called For the Love of Money, and so forth and so on. Trying to answer or give a substantial definition and meaning to this thing that we call, this so-called thing that we call love. Moving right along, and stay with me, brothers and sisters. I'm trying to hopefully go at a pace, to be quick and not hurrying, not rushing. You know, I got some blood brothers. You know, they always tease me, or they like the quote that I say to them a lot of times, like, be quick but don't hurry. So I'm telling myself and trying to adhere to, you know, one of these great mottos that I like, and I apply to myself in other aspects of life, or to be quick but don't hurry. Because when you quick, you're more in control. But when you're hurrying, 9 times out of 10, we out of control. So we need to move through life and do things, be quick, but don't hurry. Think over this. Love spelled backwards is evolved, is the first 4 letters, EVOL, of the word evolution. The first 4 letters of the word evolution. Think about this. In evolution, you should ask the question, well, what is evolution? Evolution means to grow, to develop, to unfold, to bloom, and to blossom, to mature, and to advance. So when we are loving, right, when we are full of love, and we expressing that love, and we living that love, then we are unfolding, we are growing, we are developing, we are becoming more mature, we are blooming, we are blossoming, we are advancing. Think over this for a second. You know, you hear many of us, regardless of the chronological age, you know, we say, well, we get to the age in this society when we say, I'm grown, I'm 21, I'm grown, I can do this and I can do that. But when we broaden our meaning and understanding what it means to be grown, GROWN, it really means to move towards our God self, moves toward our higher self. And in truth, it means to become more mature. So in truth, all the days of our lives, we should be growing and moving towards what I call maturity. That's it, on an emotional level, in a mental level, in a spiritual level. Because maturity, or being grown, as we use it in this society, has nothing to do with the chronological age that this society has already determined and fixed, age 21, and sometimes say 18, where you have the so-called societal rights to do this and that and the other. And most time it don't be in our best interest, those things that we are now given the right to do and to participate in the larger society, because we have reached a certain age by number. Think over that, meditate and reflect on that. Love and gravity are synonymous. Love and gravity. Think about what gravity does. What we call gravity, it functions, this force that's called gravity, it binds things into a oneness. It holds things into a certain system or order. That's the activity and expression of love also. That's what love does. And then on this earthly plane of existence, what's called the three-dimensional, we say jokingly sometimes, what goes up must come down. What goes up and what bring it down is the force of what we call gravity. Because this gravitational force or pull is around the earth. And it really is a form, and this aura is a form of protection for the earth itself. So in this circumference of what we call earth, if it doesn't, anything that does not, how can I say it, go out of the boundaries or have the force and power to go beyond the boundaries of gravity, where it's the force of gravity itself is pulling it back towards the earth. That's a manifestation and expression of some of the characteristics of love, because love does the same thing. Love holds things, and it's like a magnetic force. It arranges things and keep particular things in their place, in their order, giving a system of order and how things function and operate. That's love. That's an expression of love also. Think over that. The sun, what we call the sun, the S-U-N. The sun is the most powerful physical element in the so-called physical universe. And at the same time, it is the greatest lover. Why is the sun, in this example, is the greatest lover? The sun is said to be in the center of what we call our solar system. And think on what the sun does. The sun gives light. It gives life. And it also gives what we call love to everything and all things on the earth and within the earth. Think over that. Think over this. The sun is loving. The sun is the greatest physical manifestation in our spirit because it is given of itself. A true unconditional lover is given. That's his nature. And it's successful in its giving, and it is sustained within itself because what? It is giving. Think over what I just said. The sun is given of itself. The sun is an expression of unconditional love, and everything on the earth and within the earth depends on the sun to live. The plants, the lower, so-called lower creatures, the trees, the birds, the animals, everything on the earth and within the earth depends on the sun, and the sun is given of itself. And we may wonder why hasn't the sun so-called died? Why hasn't the sun isn't it draining itself? No, the sun, as we know it at this particular time, is sustained and renewed and refreshed because what? It's given of itself, and it's asking nothing in return. That's its nature. So it's being true to its nature. Unconditional love. An example of unconditional love. And I had a friend of mine, a great friend of mine, an associate. You know, I shared a few thoughts to him, what I was planning or trying to or endeavoring to do with this episode or with this topic called What is Love? And he asked me, he said, well, what is the sun? I said, bro, I said, I'm laughing to myself or smiling. I said, well, we'll deal with that at another time. But the topic is, what is love? You know, because I use the analogy that the love or that the sun is the greatest giver in the physical sense in our sphere. But briefly, just to answer his question, and the question that many of you may have also, what is the sun? Well, briefly, and I'm not an astronomer, I'm not a physicist, but we are told that our sun, what we call the sun in our solar system, it is a star itself. It is a star. Don't ask me what a star is. Do some homework yourself on that, because we can go on and on with that train of thought. But we have an idea or image of some of the terminology that's being expressed here. Therefore, the sun is a star. It's a hot ball of glowing gases at the heart of our solar system. Its influence, we are told, extends far beyond the orbits of the planet Neptune and Pluto. We are told that without the sun's intense energy and heat, there will be no life on Mother Earth. There will be no life on Mother Earth. The average diameter of the sun is 864,000 miles, we are told. And that's about 109 times the size of the Earth. So at least that should get a few of you off and running, if you are seeking to know, well, what is the sun? What is the sun? Think over that, brothers and sisters. Everything that we talk about today, think over it. Everything that we may talk about on any episode, think over these things. Sit down, be still, and sit in quiet meditation and reflection and contemplation and think over these things. Because this program, this educational program, Purge, Purify, and Renew Your Mind, is a serious program. It's a serious program. And it's seeking, as I stated in the beginning, to enlighten minds, to empower people, to enrich, elevate, enhance, and transform as many lives as possible for the better. Because we living in a time that we need to be elevated in our thinking. We need to know accurate knowledge and truth. And the way I've been phrasing all of that lately is that we should be seekers. Those who seeking to acquire what I call accurate knowledge and truth, highly and heavily spiced and seasoned with love. We should not allow ourselves at this time in our development or sojourn or so-called incarnation in the three-dimensional, what I call underworld or prison house on the planet Earth, to check out of here, to leave, give up the life in the body temple in ignorance. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to our loved ones who are living today in their body temple. And we owe it to the beautiful ones yet unborn. The veil has been and continue to be lifted of the lies and the hypocrisy and the false ideals and beliefs and concepts that we have been programmed with. So it takes inner courage and conviction to break the mental and spiritual shackles of ignorance around our mind. And to one degree or another, we all have these shackles. And many of us are in denial. And these shackles, they function like any drug. And if someone is addicted to what we call a hard drug or alcohol, we know that healing cannot take place or will not take place until that individual comes out of denial. That individual must fess up to the condition that he or she may find him or herself in at a particular time in their life. And it should not be any shame in the game, because examples of people who have fallen by whatever means lower in the mud than many of us. They have gotten up. We can get up. We all have the capability to rise up out of a low vibrational condition. And the first step of rising up a lower vibrational condition is to rise up in our mentality, to realize the reality of our lives, and then have the courage and conviction to begin a process of turning it around, to breaking those shackles. They must be first broken in our minds, in our psychology. Think over that, because we living in a time now, you just do any homework that goes beneath and beyond the surface of all superficialities, and you will find that what we call the Piscean age is over with. I call it the Piscean age of religiosity, regardless of the religion, your belief system. But the age of lies and hypocrisy, or socio-economic and political corruption, miseducation, Stockholm syndrome. I mean, we can go on and on. That was the age of Pisces, but the age of Pisces is over with. But the impact and influence of it still lingers on. And a group of people, elite people around the world, who form how can I say, interlocking families. I call them the wickedly wise. They have a vested interest in keeping the masses of people, regardless of so-called race, color, creed, on lockdown, because they know that the old age of Pisces, as a matter of fact, each age is 2,160 years. So we have a paradigm shift has taken place in the cosmic calendar, or the cosmic clock, if we want to call it that. And we have entered into, and we on the cutting edge of what's called the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age itself will consist of 2,160 years. But we are blessed to be here in the flesh, in the body temple, and we are on the cutting edge. And the energies and frequencies that are coming to the planet Earth and to everything on it and in it is for our upliftment, for our elevation. And some of the signs and symbols of it is spiritual awareness, or increase in our spiritual knowledge, our spiritual, mental and spiritual awakening, unity consciousness, greater riches and wealth and prosperity for one and all. I mean, the energies are changing our DNA and raising us up from a so-called dead level that we've been living on, that we call life. And those, again, who I call the wickedly wise, they have had a vested interest in keeping people at this low vibrational condition and mental state of mind. That's why I call the age of Pisces a prison house, an underworld. And if you do some homework in terms of what's called the chakras, which are 7 major energy centers in our body temple, coming from the lower chakra on up to the pineal gland in our brains, There are 7 major chakras or energy systems in our bodies. And you may have read, I know most of you and many of you have read in your book called the Bible, when it's talking about the 7 candlesticks, the 7 churches, the 7 this. It's talking about the energy centers or power centers. One of our scholars called them melanin clusters in our bodies. Because the goal of what we should be doing, if we were properly educated and enlightened, is to raise up the energy from its low level within our bodies up into the pineal gland, or what's called in book of Matthew, chapter 6, 22nd verse, where it talks about the single eye. It's making reference to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is in the center of our brain. Most people call it the third eye, but it's the first eye. Once again, if you do a little homework, you'll see that that particular gland, I think more or less after 18 weeks or 3 weeks, is the first gland that's born in a human fetus. It is receptacle to light, sunlight. That's why we see some people, when you do certain kinds of research, are trying to block the sunlight, because the pineal gland, or the first eye, is a receptacle in a transmitter. And the sun, when you look at the sun or sunlight, everything has information in it. So the rays of the sun is not just radiating or disseminating what we call light so I can physically see, but it's information in the rays. It's information in the light. Matter of fact, it's information in everything, because everything and all things is about energy. Everything vibrates. Everything vibrates. Everything has life in it, and it's the life energy. Even the things that we call matter, it only appears to be a solid to us in this 3-dimensional, because it's vibrating at a very low frequency. So it gives the appearance that it's solid. But if you take a piece of this table or this chair that I'm sitting in, and you put a piece of it under a microscope, you'll see life. You'll see movement. You'll see frequency. You'll see particles and waves moving in something that we thought and were told that it was dead. There's nothing dead in the universe. Everything is alive. So God, as we call it, by whatever name, is life. Everything lives. Even what we call death is nothing but a change. You take a piece of paper and you burn the paper, and it's not in that form anymore. We see ashes. The paper changed, but we didn't destroy it. It turned to ashes. So nothing it dies. Life is life, and life seeks to perpetuate itself. Think over these things, brothers and sisters. Think over these things. The sun, as I said, is the greatest lover in the physical universe, because it is given of itself. It asks nothing in return. Everything and all things in the universe depends on the sun. I said that, and think over that. Recall the song by Whitney Houston, "The Greatest Love of All." She may have been talking about, no, I think she said the love of self and stuff like that. But from the human standpoint, to truly love myself, or for any one of us to truly love yourself, from the human standpoint, it takes accurate knowledge. to truly love self. Because I'm saying that because if you don't have true knowledge or accurate knowledge enough of oneself, it's scientifically, spiritually, and mathematically impossible to love yourself. You may fix your mouth to say you love yourself, but if your mind and your brain and your psychology is not operating and functioning with accurate knowledge and truth, then it's impossible. Scientifically, spiritually, and mathematically impossible to truly love yourself regardless of what you say. Think over that. And all the days of our life, right up to today, we live in a national and global cultural power system that brainwashes its inhabitants for social domination and control. Believe it or not, do some homework. Come out of denial. Sit back. Be still. Meditate and reflect on these things. Love is the highest vibratory frequency in the universe. Love, what we call love, is the highest vibratory frequency in the universe. That's what it is. And the greatest law of life, there's only one law of life. All the other so-called laws are derivative of this one law. And that one law of life is the divine law of love. All other laws and principles that are good, beautiful, uplifting, and true are derivatives of this one divine law of life, which is called the divine law of love. All is love. If we truly and properly understand, all is love. There's nothing but love. But someone has ambushed our minds. We think that love and sex is the same thing. You know, we say, man, I'm going to make love. They sing songs about it. I mean, people write poems about it. People write books about it. But love and sex are not the same. I say it like this. Sex, which is an expression, a divine expression of life, when it's deeply rooted in love, it is sacred, holy, and divine. But it must be, sex itself must be deeply rooted in love, unconditional love. Then sex, the expression, the natural expression of what we call sex, then that makes it sacred, holy, and divine. But if we just having sex without any kind of discipline and responsibilities of life, and when it's not deeply rooted in unconditional love, then that's an expression of the sexual energy which is created on the lowest plane of existence. Yeah, you're having sex. We're creating babies, but the creative energy of sex is not only made to produce babies, or it's not only there for enjoyment and pleasure. That energy also, when it's raised up, and there are certain times, we won't talk about it at this time, but each one of us, whether we are male or female, has a cycles of life. Every month. Most time we only think of that the female has a cycle. That's a cycle. But what I'm talking about is called every month, based on around the time when the moon is in our sun sign, or sign of birth, started around the age of puberty or 12 years old. And every 29 and a half days since our birth, we receive what the in the book of John, I think it's the 9th chapter, something like that, what it's called the God seed. There's a God seed that each of us, whether a male or female, receives every month. And during that time when we receive what's called that God seed, it should not be wasted, as the using biblical terminology. It says that seed should not be wasted, meaning that it should not be expressed from the lower self outwardly for sexual pleasure. And the so-called moon stays in our so-called sign every 29 and a half days, at least 2.5 days before it leaves out. So this is a sacred time when each of us receive what's called the God seed. And if we don't waste the seed and destroy the seed in sexual pleasure during that particular time, then we raise the seed up. We raise the energy up towards the pineal gland, the first eye. And that raising up, that continual saving that seed once a month, every 29 and a half days, it renews us. It revitalizes us. And it has the power and potential to regenerate us. But that seed, along with other things and everything in this society and throughout the world, everything has been weaponized. And men and women and brothers and sisters are kept on lockdown because we are more or less programmed against our best interests, against our better self, against our positive and progressive growth and development. And most times we live I won't say we live, we exist, and we think we're living all the days of our life, and we check out, not knowing the game that's being played on us, not knowing how we have been socially manipulated and miseducated and brainwashed to serve others. And in fact, we haven't even began to learn and to think. Others have ambushed our mentalities and have programmed us and thinking for us, and we don't even realize it. Most of us don't even realize it. We say, oh, I'm doing what I like to do. I'm doing what I so-called love to do. How did you come to do what you like to do? How did you come to like what you say you like? Did you sit down and some quiet meditation and reflection? Did you do some homework, some research, some study, examination? No, most of us didn't. You acquired it from the social environment. You acquired it from the institution, the religious institution, the so-called educational institution. You acquired your what you call your knowledge and understanding in terms of business from the economics of the society, and so forth and so on. But one great scholar was a friend of mine, still is a friend, even though he has made his spiritual transition. He said, and this will be another episode dealing with this topic or subject, what is education? But he, in a nutshell, he defined education in this sense, that true education, the primary purpose of what we call education, should teach a person or a people how to ensure their biological existence. If it doesn't give a person or a people the knowledge, the understanding, and the wherewithal of how to ensure and protect and prolong their biological existence, then that so-called education is miseducation. It's training, it's not education. And then education itself is culturally based. Every people, or all people, as a so-called ethnic group, they have their own particular educational system. They are practicing the right of self-determination. And the reason why I say education is not like a general or big shoe that fit all people. That's not true. It's culturally based. It's unique to the particular people. And then when a people are robbed of their culture, and which is their mind, right? Then that people, whether they know it or not, whether they're conscious of it or not, are out of their mind because they're out of their culture. And they live in what I call the mind of another people because they have been programmed and trained and indoctrinated with the cultural educational system and its belief system and its values of another people. So that's not true education for that people. That people are miseducated. A prime example of that miseducation, that false indoctrination, that false consciousness is the so-called black people in North America. That's what has happened. We say, oh, I'm doing our cultural thing. We live in our culture because we've been sold once again that culture is song and dance, music, cuisine, different types of food and how you cook it. That's not culture. That's an aspect of culture. And I said on another episode, and I'm still on the topic of what is love. Don't think I done moved off of that premise. But one of our, another great scholar, he's still living today in the flesh, Dr. Maulana Karinga, and the creator of so-called, what we call Kwanzaa. He defined culture for any people. He said there are 7 core principles or areas of culture for any people. And the 7 core areas are these. History, that's 1. 2, religion or spirituality or moral ethics, that's 2. 3, the political organization, the social organization of a people, the economic organization of a people. The 6th one was called creative production. That's what we have wrongly and falsely identified culture is, because within the creative production is what is a people's songs and dance and writings and poetry and literature and the cuisine and so forth and art. That comes up under the 6th principle of culture, which is creative production. And the 7th principle or core principle is what's called ethos. That's the psychology of a people and how they see themselves on the other 6 areas. That's culture of any people. Not fashion. That's false indoctrination. What is love? A few thoughts here that are extracted from some notes from some years ago, and more than likely I'm going to re-edit it. But what is love? Love is the power that is sacred, holy, and divine. Love is the power that makes whole and the power that binds all things into a wholeness or oneness or a unit or an order. Love is the power that heals and cures all things. Love is sacrifice. Love is the key to the kingdom or the queendom. Love is the key. Love is the root and branch of all things. Love is light. Love is kindly feelings, sympathy, and generosity. Love is harmony, balance, order, truth, justice, and righteousness. Love is a burning inner desire to give of oneself, as I said earlier about the sun. It's a burning inner desire to give of itself and to give of oneself that service. And I know you probably recall better than I do in one of the 4 Gospels where it's mentioned that let he or she who is great among thee be thy servant. A servant, a true servant who's performing service is expressing unconditional love. Is expressing unconditional love. I stated that love is not sex, but sex rooted in unconditional love, once again, is holy, sacred, and divine. Love is life, and life is love. Love is the fulfilling of the law. There's only but one law, and that's the divine law of love. All other laws, principles are derivatives of this one great divine law of love. You don't have to accept it because I'm saying it. Do your homework. Do your homework. Love is as strong as death. Think over that one. Many waters cannot quench love. Neither can the floods drown it. And I'm going to end or bring this subject to a close of this part 1 of what is love by reading the verses from the 13 chapters of 1 Corinthians. And many of you have heard these verses read and said in your church houses and other spaces and places throughout the highways and byways of life. But it goes like this. And though I speak with the tongues of men and women and of angels or angels of light and have not love, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned and not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is long suffering, and love is kind. Love envies not. Love is not puffed up. Love does not behave unseemly, seeks not her own, is not easily provoked, thinks no evil, rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Think over that. Rejoices in the truth. Think over the quote or the statement that I made earlier, that we should be seeking accurate knowledge and truth, highly and heavily seasoned or spiced and seasoned with love. You hear this verse, and I know, I'm quoting a Bible verses, because I know most of us, we are aware of these verses. We have heard them somewhere in our minds. They're there. So I'm using these verses, hopefully that it will stimulate our minds to wake us up, have a breakthrough, and to plunge the depths of the surface and raise ourselves up. Love bears all things. True love, true unconditional love bears all things. It says believes all things, but that belief is rooted in accurate knowledge and truth. It's not a blind belief, because you know the verse, and you heard it once again, faith without works is dead. Faith without accurate knowledge and truth is dead. But what makes a faith or belief strong? When it's supported by some accurate knowledge and truth. Then when I say I believe this or that or the other because I know this or that or the other is a fact, is knowledge, accurate knowledge, is evidence. So that's a strong belief. I know many of us, we accustomed to saying, man, woman, brother, sister, you have your opinion and I have my opinion. I'm not talking about opinion. Yes, we all have an opinion about everything. And I would be in the front of the line to defend anyone's right to their opinion. But an opinion is not necessarily true. But it has to be proven, supported by some accurate knowledge and truth. Prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. Not believe all things and everything, anything. Prove it. To prove something means to test something, to weigh it, to examine it, to research it, to look into it, to sit down in quiet meditation and reflection and contemplation. That's proven. And if it holds up to your testing or your proving at that particular time, then we should hold on to it. And as we continue that process, we continue to grow, to develop, evolve. As I said, the first 4 letters of the word love, when you reverse it, EVOL, and I said what? That evolve means to what? To grow, to develop, to unfold, to mature, to advance, to bloom, and to blossom. So if we are loving and we know what love is, and we become each and every day more and more become the embodiment of what love is, then we are growing, we are developing, we are unfolding, we are maturing, we are advancing, we are blooming, and we are blossoming. Whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. And now abideth faith, as the verse says, 13th chapter of 1 Corinthians, hope, love. These 3, it says, but the greatest of these is love. Love is that unseen force, power, and intelligence that is pervasive throughout the universe, throughout nature, and within ourselves that must be tapped and cultivated. So brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies, I hope that what has been stated or shared or disseminated find a place within you that resonate with something in you and stimulate your mind, your spirit, to wake up, to stand up, to get up and fulfill ourselves, to unfold ourselves, because that's what we're here to do. The spirit of love is the spirit of power. The spirit of love is the spirit of power. And finally, brothers and sisters, as I stated, this part 1, and there are many other things or statements that could be said, but time won't and doesn't allow it to be stated at this time. And I think enough has been said and stated as food for thought, that if we are honest with ourselves and we become disciplined in our everyday life with ourselves, has nothing to do with anybody else. It starts with self. We say self-love. Matter of fact, once again, you heard this before. love thy neighbor as thyself. Look at the verse. Love thy neighbor as thyself. The premise of loving neighbor is self-love. And I stated that from the so-called human standpoint, it takes accurate knowledge and truth to love oneself, to truly love oneself. And in this instance, a neighbor is anything, anyone, or everything outside of oneself. So the premise of loving a neighbor or neighbors, anything and everything, anyone outside of oneself, is self-love. And to truly love self, one must possess and apply accurate knowledge and truth in order to truly love oneself. Each of us, we may have a strong affection for ourselves, but it's not love. It's not true self-love. And many of us would go to war with one another if we tell one another, man, brother, sister, you don't truly love yourself. Oh, we'll fight. We'll fight. We'll shoot. We'll kill. And if that individual, if it's myself, if you don't possess an effective, accurate knowledge and truth of oneself, then you are not truly loving self. I'm not truly loving myself. And we see the proof in the pudding in the society, in the home, with our individual selves, in the community, in the neighborhood. Because if a people or a person are truly loving themselves, you don't destroy self. It's impossible. It's spiritually, mathematically, scientifically impossible to destroy that which one truly loves. And if we, more or less, many of us, if we are destroying ourselves, hurting ourselves, harming ourselves, paining ourselves and others, then we are not truly loving. Because in the final analysis, it's impossible to destroy that which one truly loves. Brothers and sisters, do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and written or rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found written in your religious books or your spiritual books or any books. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations. Because of everything traditionally that one's people or family members or ancestors did is not relevant today. It's not relevant. Real quickly, one great scholar, I was at a lecture in Harlem, New York, Dr. John Henry Clark, who has made his spiritual transition now. He was paraphrasing and saying the same thing about tradition that I'm trying to say right now. He said, we built the pyramids before, and we done performed great, marvelous things in our tradition, but do we need pyramids today? We got to bring some reason to our tradition. We don't need pyramids today. I don't think so. So we don't need to be trying to build pyramids today and a lot of other things that are in our tradition. But after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it. Every shut eye isn't closed and every goodbye isn't gone. Everything must change. Nothing stays the same. Everyone will change. No one stays the same. The young becomes the old, and mysteries do unfold, because that's the way of time, and nothing and no one goes unchanged. There are many things in life you can be sure of, except rain comes from the clouds, sun lights up the sky, and hummingbirds do fly. Winter turns to spring. A wounded heart will heal, but never much too soon. Yes, everything will change. The young becomes the old, and mystery do unfold, because that's the way of time. Nothing and no one goes unchanged. And finally, the naked truth is always better than the best dressed lie. Not to know is bad, but not to want to know is worse. That's an African proverb. And our great ancestor and writer and social activist, Brother James Baldwin said, "No, not everything that is faced can be changed." Let me get it right. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Peace and love. Peace out. Until next time. Stay strong, live long, carry on.